Well, if the writing says September is going to end, Sam Smith is 100% correct. It will end tomorrow, will be the final day of it. Morning humor. That's all we got. Well, that and our coffee, celebrating National Coffee Day. Weekly chat with Barrett Insurance Agency and owner, along with his wife. We've got Mike Barrett joining us for Good Policies on this year, 29th of September. Mike, you got your coffee going?
I just want to go for the record every day. In fact, every hour is coffee hour for me. So I'm always celebrating.
Well, the stats we just read was actually 2/3 of women, 66% of women drink coffee every day. Men, 62%. So you're one of the 62 then, huh?
Yeah. Every day. Absolutely.
All right.
I've never had to worry about a blood alcohol content. It's more of a blood coffee content that I have to worry about.
Yeah, the caffeine content in the system.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we talk about insurance because it is pretty complex to understand, and there's changes here, there, and everywhere. Mike, a while back, I say a while back because we are at the end of September here, but I think over the past couple of months we talked about when people go purchase a vehicle, and people are still doing that a little differently nowadays, but there's something that you mentioned during that chat that I'd like to hit again with our listeners, and that's when the sales rep says, hey, we've got the easiest car buying experience. We can even handle the insurance for you. This isn't true, is it?
Well, it's not advisable, that's for sure.
Okay.
Remember that the auto insurance policy that you have is a contract between you and the insurance company, not between you via proxy through a car salesperson with the company. You know what I mean? So they are not party to the contract, so they have no ability to report a vehicle change for you. They can do it, but it's not going to be approved because they don't have the bounds or legal contractual ability to do that.
So what I was thinking about that is, and this is why I suggested we talk about it here, is they may not know the coverage that you have. They can't just say to the insurance company, oh, we'll drag over that same coverage. Well, what if the car was older and didn't have a higher coverage rate, like $100,000 or what have you? So that was why I thought it would be important to mention this.
Yeah, and truth be told, every time we go to a policy and every time we look at a policy, we're putting our eyes on all parts of it. So, if we're seeing opportunity to maybe give you some better coverage or leverage price with the coverage on any change that you're making, that's an opportunity. That's us having an opportunity to do that and advise you appropriately. It's all too often that I hear folks go, so did so-and-so call and tell you about my new car? And sometimes I can say, yes, but we left you a couple of messages because we needed to get a confirmation from you before we could do it. Or, no, we've never heard from anybody. How long have you had the vehicle? There is a reporting timeline in Vermont and in all states of how long you really have to report a vehicle. Now, when you substitute a vehicle, it's a pretty ambiguous time frame. But if you are adding a vehicle, you've got 14 days to report that before you start running into some coverage gaps. And, of course, the car dealership is going to be very interested in reporting that vehicle for you for a number of reasons. 9 times out of 10, people look at an auto dealership purchase are financing. And it's incumbent upon the auto dealership to prove to the bank that they used that the person has auto insurance and proof of that auto insurance is provided. So that's obviously why they're going to be common to call. But remember, you need to initiate that as well. You need to at least confirm that the coverage is available, or the coverage selections that you have are what you want, that yes, indeed, I traded this vehicle for that vehicle, and kind of the mechanics of it all. And beyond that too, Jeff, one thing that we see a lot, we'll just get a phone call or an email and say, hey, I sold this car. That's great. When did you sell the car? We don't want to take it off today necessarily if you sold it today. We want to take it off tomorrow so that you had coverage up to the sale. There's a million and one variables at play there that you really want to make sure you're kind of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Did you sell the car 2 weeks ago? All right, well, what day was it 2 weeks ago? Let's go ahead and remove it back so you're not paying a premium for a vehicle that you haven't had for 2 weeks. There's a lot of things to consider when you're making just these minute auto changes. You really should have the details.
Well, what about the peace of mind, too, knowing that you're driving your car home and if something happens, the coverage is there, too?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it, though, is that with that time frame, when you are trading a vehicle And here's another catch-20. This is a catch-22, I suppose. But if you're trading a vehicle, let's say, Jeff, you're going from a late model vehicle that's liability only, and over the weekend you decide to trade that vehicle in and get a vehicle that now has a loan and requires full coverage. You do automatically have the broadest coverage available on your policy when you swap vehicles and not report it immediately. But here's the interesting part. You going from a liability-only vehicle to a vehicle with physical damage coverage, that's not going to be automatic because the broadest coverage in your policy is liability. So, there's things to consider and ponder as you work through. Something as simple as just on a Friday saying, look, put full coverage on this car that I have now because it's a possibility that I might trade it over the weekend. And if I do trade it, then I know that the broadest coverage on my policy will carry over onto my new vehicle that highly likely will have a loan and require this coverage. So let's do it. And that's a great way to buy yourself some time.
Well, and another thing, in the times that we're in with the COVID pandemic and such, and a lot of offices may not be operating at full capacity. Now, we also, too, understand, Mike, that in today's world, a lot of stuff is done over the phone and electronically. But what if you or the company can't get that policy done up in 14 days? It's an outside possibility. You just want to keep all the bases covered, right?
Yeah, you want to, and if you're able to just dot the I's, cross the T's, and document the process on the agency side, that goes a long way towards making sure that the client is protected. So,
well, there's a lot there, but again, the important thing is, as you always mention, have a conversation with your insurance agent, and always make sure that you have appropriate coverage. Like you mentioned, going from, for example, a 2004 to a 2019 that now requires a loan and the full coverage. Make sure you talk about it.
Absolutely. And it's not that tedious, to be honest with you. It's easy to think that, oh, goodness, I don't want to have to deal with this today. I got enough going on. It's a pretty simple conversation. So we certainly think that it's a prudent thing to do, something that you should never leave to another party to do on your behalf.
All right, Mike, tell folks how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. You can give us a call, 748-5224. We're located on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. Online, where you can get a free home or auto quote, thebarrettagency.com. Plus, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Google. Just look for Barrett Insurance Agency.
Now, folks, too, we know that if Mike is your agent, you can contact him with any questions. But if you just plain old have any questions about insurance, send them off to Mike. Give me your email address again, and we'll talk about it.
Sure. My email address is mike@thebarrettagency.com. Plus, you can find all my contact information on our website.
Thank you, Mike, for the chat this morning. Now, we'll let you get back to celebrating National Coffee Day.
I'm going to go get me some. They need to change it to National Java Day, because that's what I call it. Get some Java.
Get some Java or some gel with you, right? Thanks an awful lot.
Absolutely, sir.
Always great to check in with you, Mike.
Have a great week.
All right. Good policies on Magic in the Morning, Tuesdays at 8:35. Music coming up from Ava.